For most of human history, the most terrifying monster wasn't a lion or a wolf. It was a tiny scratch. If you lived 150 years ago, if you lived just 150 years ago, a cut on your finger, a scraped knee in the mud, or a mild toothache meant absolute terror. You were fragile, you healed slowly, and you were completely at the mercy of a microscopic world you couldn't even see. Bacteria didn't hunt us with claws or teeth, yet they have killed more humans than all wars, predators, and natural disasters combined. Then, in 1928, we discovered a miracle: antibiotics. It was like a cheat code handed down from God, instantly turning a fatal infection into a minor inconvenience, fixed by just a few days of pills. Humanity thought we had permanently won this microscopic war. But today, over 1.2 million people die every year from a new monster that even our strongest antibiotics cannot kill. And the most chilling paradox? This monster, capable of sending humanity back to the Dark Ages, didn't come from outer space. It isn't a natural disaster. It is something we cultivated, step by step, right inside our own medicine cabinets. Most people have a fatal misconception about superbugs. We think bacteria are like aliens in a sci-fi movie, developing powerful weapons out of pure malice just to destroy humanity. Dead wrong. No pharmaceutical company sat down and plotted, "Let's invent an invincible bacteria immune to all drugs." The birth of superbugs was purely a deeply absurd accident. It stems entirely from human arrogance. When we discovered that antibiotics could kill bacteria, we treated them like a magical cure-all. Got a cold? Take antibiotics. A tickle in your throat? Take antibiotics. Some healthy people even swallow a few pills routinely just to prevent getting sick. We thought we were wiping out the enemy, but in reality, we were building the ultimate Spartan-style Darwinian training camp for bacteria.
To understand how all of this happened, you have to shrink your perspective down to the micron level and watch Darwin's natural selection run on fast forward. Bacteria don't measure reproduction in years, they measure it in minutes. E. coli can spawn a new generation every 20 minutes. That means in the 8 hours you sleep, they can breed millions of descendants. When you swallow an antibiotic, your body turns into a brutal gladiator arena. The antibiotics act like a precision nuclear strike, directly shattering bacterial cell walls or blocking their ability to replicate DNA. 99.9% of the ordinary bacteria are wiped out. But the key lies in that 0.1%. Within this massive bacterial population, through billions of random replications, 1 or 2 bacteria inevitably mutate. Maybe their cell walls grew just a little bit thicker, or maybe they evolved microscopic molecular pumps capable of vomiting the antibiotic right back out. Once the antibiotic sweeps through, all their competitors are dead. This single mutated survivor suddenly finds itself with infinite resources and space. So it begins to divide, frantically. 2 in 20 minutes, 4 in 40 minutes. In just a few days, your body is flooded with a new generation of bacteria, completely immune to that drug. We didn't kill the enemy, we simply helped them filter out the most hardcore, ruthless, elite special forces in their ranks. If you think this sounds like theoretical guesswork, in 2016, Harvard scientists did something completely radical. They broadcast this exact process live to the world. The experiment is known as the megaplate. Scientists built a massive 4-foot-long rectangular petri dish and divided it into distinct bands. The outermost region, 0 antibiotics. One step inward, a 1 times dose, just enough to stop E. coli in its tracks. The next band, a 10 times dose, then 100 times. And right in the center, a terrifying 1,000 times lethal concentration. They placed ordinary E. coli on the outer edges and started recording. At first, the bacteria multiplied wildly until they hit the 1 times border and stopped. It looked like the antibiotic had worked, but just hours later, a tiny cluster of mutated bacteria broke through the front line. They adapted to the 1 times dose and pushed deeper. Next, they hit the 10 times wall, paused again, mutated again, broke through again. Then 100 times. Finally, 1,000 times. Guess how long it took for these highly fragile, ordinary bacteria to evolve a level of resistance capable of surviving a 1,000 times lethal dose. Not tens of thousands of years, not centuries, just 11 days. This isn't just evolution. This is a genetic blitzkrieg engineered by our own hands.
But did you think this screening process only happens inside human hospitals? Or in the bodies of sick patients? No. The true superbug incubator isn't in the hospital at all. It's right there on your dinner table. To get you cheaper fried chicken and pork, modern industrialized agriculture discovered a secret. Dumping massive amounts of antibiotics into animal feed doesn't just keep them from getting sick in crowded, filthy conditions. It also makes them grow fatter. Today, a staggering 70% of all antibiotics produced globally aren't used to save human lives. They are fed directly to completely healthy farm animals. It's the equivalent of installing a global superbug filtration funnel inside tens of billions of livestock. Those invincible bacteria that survive in the guts of pigs and cattle, they are excreted into rivers, they seep into the soil, and they cling to the raw meat you buy at the supermarket. Once they enter the natural environment, hitching a ride on modern global flights, a supermutation born on a farm in New Delhi takes just 24 hours to appear on a New York subway handrail or in a London sewer. If superbugs only multiplied on their own, perhaps humanity could still contain them through quarantine. But what happens next completely shattered the psychological defenses of biologists. Bacteria don't need to have babies to pass on their superpowers. They don't even need to belong to the same species. Inside a bacterium, there is a circular piece of DNA called a plasmid. You can think of it as a genetic USB flash drive loaded with hacker code. When an E. coli evolves resistance to an antibiotic, it writes this resistance code onto the plasmid. Then, while sitting in your gut, it encounters a completely unrelated bacteria, say Klebsiella, which causes pneumonia. These two single-celled organisms, which originally had nothing to do with each other, will draw close. One extends a microscopic tube and directly sends a copy of that USB drive, complete with the resistance code, straight to the other. This is called horizontal gene transfer. It's exactly like this. You are facing an army of enemies armed with spears. You fire a gun, but fail to kill one of them.
The survivor instantly figures out how a bulletproof vest works, turns on his Bluetooth, and instantly mass texts the blueprints for how to make Kevlar to every single enemy within a 10-mile radius. Even a passing dog gets a bulletproof vest. This is exactly why we discovered the terrifying NDM1 gene. It's a super resistance gene capable of neutralizing almost all of our strongest antibiotics. And it doesn't just exist in one type of bacteria. It spreads frantically among different bacterial species, almost like a virus. Right under our noses, bacteria are forming an open-source network, sharing their defensive armor.
Humanity is paying a devastating price for its own greed and abuse. The true horror of superbugs isn't that they make people bleed out and collapse like some zombie virus. Their true horror lies in deprivation. They are silently stripping away the very foundation of modern medicine. Think about it. What happens when antibiotics no longer work? Organ transplants will become almost impossible because a microscopic infection after immunosuppression would be lethal. Cancer chemotherapy will become a death sentence with no drugs left to protect patients when their white blood cell counts hit rock bottom. Even the most routine procedures, a C-section, an appendectomy, or a scraped knee from a fall, will once again become a game of Russian roulette. To wipe out our enemies, we indiscriminately launched antibiotic nukes. In the process, we slaughtered the beneficial microbiome in our own guts. We compromised our natural biological barriers, and we handed the battlefield over to those super demons that survived the baptism of fire. We aren't just creating monsters, we are disarming ourselves with our very own hands. Back in 1945, when Alexander Fleming, the discoverer of penicillin, accepted his Nobel Prize, he didn't just celebrate. Instead, he left behind a chilling prophecy. The thoughtless person playing with penicillin treatment is morally responsible for the death
Our
of the
research
man who
confirms the
succumbs
compound
to
is
infection
final.
with the penicillin-resistant organism. Over 80 years ago, standing at the absolute pinnacle of human medicine, he already foresaw our ending today. From Homo sapiens shivering around a fire in the dark 30,000 years ago, to modern humans wielding genetic scissors today, we have never stopped gambling with nature. But this time, the true threat isn't a pair of glowing eyes in the jungle. It isn't some grand conspiracy. Tonight, when you feel a slight tickle in your throat, and without a doctor's guidance, you casually dig out a box of leftover antibiotics from your last cold and swallow a pill, please remember this. You are starting a personalized 11-day Harvard mega plate experiment right inside your own body. And you are the creator who personally hit the fast forward button for the monster.